And welcome back to Newsmax Now.
Thanks for staying with us. Yesterday on Prime, J.D. Hayworth interviewed former ESPN college football analyst and legendary coach Lou Holtz on Patriots player Tom Brady's 4-game suspension, as well as what advice Holtz has for future NFL players. Here's a look at what he had to say.
I think it's far too harsh. Let me say this, J.D. The officials handled the ball on every play the first half. The official picks the ball up from the receiver or the running back. They pass it to the linesman who placed the ball down. They handled it every down. And they didn't know the ball was deflated at that time? That seems a little bit absurd.
Coach, it is that time of year when you've been out delivering some commencement addresses. What is the #1 piece of advice you have for this year's college graduates?
Well, I just got done speaking at Franciscan University, and the main thing I told them was just make sure that you take advantage of the opportunities we have. And don't complicate life. Success is not complicated. We have 7 colors of the rainbow. Look what Michelangelo did with it. We have 7 musical notes. Look what Beethoven did with it. We have 10 numbers, not 20. Look what Bernie Madoff did with those 10 numbers. So it can be simple, but it didn't all necessarily good.
Coach Holtz
Still seems spunky as ever, doesn't he?
Yeah, he always has an interesting way of looking at things. I was a little surprised, though, when I was talking to JD this morning about his defense of Tom Brady, because one thing that Lou Holtz always talks about is personal responsibility. And he says the refs in the game, they handle the footballs, they should have known better. But again, I think it goes back to Tom Brady, and again, the investigation.
He didn't too many slack there.
Yeah, but again, I guess it's Lou Holtz, a football coach known for defending his players and also known for stressing personal responsibility. But great to see him on Newsmax Prime with JD last night. Good interview.
Yeah.
And folks can catch the rest of that interview on Newsmax.com.
All right, let's take a look now at your final headlines of the day. Iraqi security forces rescue soldiers from Ramadi after ISIS takes over the city. This video shows about 28 soldiers being pulled out of the city. Thousands fled Ramadi after ISIS militants took over, killing hundreds of people, including Iraqi soldiers. Shia militias are now fighting to take back that city. Top U.S. officials are still insisting the military strategy against ISIS is working despite the fall of Ramadi, a key city in the battle against the militants. The Pentagon now says it's willing to help the Shia militias fight ISIS, even though they're backed by Iran. But lawmakers from both sides slammed the move, arguing it could lead to more sectarian violence in the region dominated mostly by Sunni Muslims. In Colombia, at least 58 people are dead after a massive landslide. Heavy rains flooded the western part of the country, triggering the mudslide that swept away people and buildings. Many homes, as you can see, were destroyed. Bodies were brought to the cemetery for identification. Some were being taken to a neighboring town about 60 miles away. A vote to legalize same-sex marriage is right around the corner in Ireland, and now some Catholic priests are telling their congregation to vote yes. Father Martin Dolan is one of those supporters. He told this congregation he was gay back in January. He's one of at least 10 members of Catholic orders who have defied their church's opposition to gay marriage. Pretty bold move.
Yeah, and I think this is interesting. And you look at church attendance in Ireland, definitely a move from some of these priests to keep a young congregation engaged and look towards the future. And it's, I guess they're in a difficult spot, as a lot of organizations are when you have people like priests who are there in these parishes talking directly to their congregants, and then you have administration folks like the bishops who are trying to keep the traditions of the church and the teachings of the Vatican in line with the actual religion. And this is a battle. I think we're seeing it a lot in Ireland right now, but it could spill over elsewhere. And there's been similar calls for more progressive priests even here in the United States.
Do you think this move is in any way influenced by the current Pope?
Oh, of course. Absolutely. And I think it's also influenced by the reality of the situation. The Pope clearly can see that. It's a new generation, and he's trying to appeal to a new generation. Remember his comments when he was on his way back from Brazil saying, who am I to judge their motives? And again, I think this goes to the church,
which is giving him praises and criticism depending on which
he is
group
somewhat
you talk to.
Yeah, he is a controversial figure. Even when you look in at an interview you have coming up, this decision to canonize these 2 Palestinian nuns in conjunction with the Vatican's decision to formally ratify this treaty recognizing Palestine as a state. This Pope is looking towards the future, and I think these priests are maybe taking that a step further. But the conflict, I think, will continue on, not just in Ireland, but in other Catholic enclaves.
I'm curious
around
what
the globe.
your mom thinks about this, because your mom was raised Catholic, right?
Well, I was raised very strict Catholic, and
Has it changed a lot for you?
well, you know what? We don't talk about these issues specifically, but I do know the Pope is very popular with a lot of church ladies, including my mom.
Good to know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as you mentioned, we're going to have that interview coming up with former NBC correspondent Ike Siemens. He actually used to be a correspondent in Rome and in Israel, so it'll be interesting to hear his thoughts. That's coming up